Okay, totally inappropriate for the Walking Dead show, but I'm still using that intro anyway. So, we had a Walking Dead show on the 19th. Okay, I think the name of it was The Other Side. Okay, kind of makes sense. So that's episode 14 of season 7, 97th episode overall. Written by Michael Satrazemis. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the director, and written by Angela Kang. Okay, so he actually had 2 guest appearances here. Caitlin Nason as Enid. She's really kind of a regular character, but she gets so little airtime. She's still getting the whole guest appearance thing. Same thing with Stephen Ogg as Simon, and Simon is the kind of captain of the Saviors that usually goes and harasses. What's his face? The guy who runs Hilltop, the kind of like office politician that sits around drinking scotch. So that's actually the first thing that happened in the actual episode. Simon and the Saviors go and raid the Hilltop colony for some reason. They're really looking for Daryl, and they have a suspicion he's there. So they're there to raid, but also to find Daryl and kind of keep an eye on things, make sure things don't get out of control, and hopefully find and kill Daryl. I don't think they really have a clue that Maggie's alive. I believe that they showed Negan her grave or something. So Maggie is played by Lauren Cohen. Awesome British accent, by the way, very sexy. She's hiding out with Daryl to try to make sure they don't get caught. I think they go into some sort of, place you put like fruits and vegetables, like one of those underground, dark, typical kind of like, wood shelves kind of thing. I forget what that's called. So they, during this whole thing, they also decide to take the doctor, which might have been a big reason for them to go there. Now, one of the things I didn't know until I read some wiki is that Dr. Harlan Carson is a doctor they take, played by R. Keith Harris, but he's actually replacing his deceased brother. So evidently his brother was the doctor for the Saviors, and of course Negan kind of threw him in a foundry flame, so that makes it a bit difficult. Now, the main thing of this whole episode is Sasha and Rosita of sleeping with, what's that guy's name? Abraham. That's right. They were both sleeping with Abraham. So that's their fame, really, in the show, in a lot of ways. Sasha is a lot more recent, and Rosita was with Abraham for most of the 4 seasons that she's been on the show, and Abraham was on the show before he died. So it's a kind of like this weird adversarial type of thing they have going. But they both want to sneak into the Savior's camp and kill Negan. So it's basically a suicide mission. Now, as they're actually breaking in to do this, and they're kind of peeling away a fence so they can, crawl through, they encounter Eugene, and they're like, come on, we'll get you out. And he refuses. He says, he gets all teary, and he's like, I didn't ask you to come and get me. And then he kind of walks off. So you got the impression he's not going to go and sound the alarm. So he's very split because he really likes where he is now. The power he has, walking around with that long coat and that like weird little sock puppet. He's digging it, and he's never had that. He's never had so much respect. I mean, because of the way Negan sees him as his like chief engineer, he could do anything he wants and get away with it. And he's not the type to, become very abusive with it. He's not a savior. But he is somebody who really has probably thought of themselves as a piece of shit for most of their lives, a piece of shit coward. So to have that power where people actually listen to him and people actually look up to him as like the head engineer, that's really important to him. I don't think he's going to risk that. And I don't think it's necessarily only his cowardice and his fear of Negan. Like I've been saying, there's a lot of things in this that are a good deal for him. He's kind of coming out on top of the whole, post-apocalyptic survivor thing as being basically one of the right-hand men of the most powerful guy in the area, Negan. For a guy like him, I mean, that's a better life than he would ever had. There was this kind of loose respect for him being a smarty pants. If you remember last, 2 episodes ago or last episode, they called him Dr. Smarty Pants. Well, there was like a loose kind of respect amongst the Alexandrians that he at least, he could make bullets and stuff like that. But it wasn't the kind of power that he has in Negan's camp. Negan has basically stamped him one of the upper echelon. And so, like, pretty much everyone kowtows to him now. So it's, I've read a lot of reviews, and people don't talk about Eugene much and what this means. So he's not, it's not part of some big plot to, destroy the Saviors. Although I think he'll come in later. But he got caught. He really was scared for his life. Right? It wasn't like this great acting job that people have posited. Even myself, I made it more of a kind of, okay, it could be, it's kind of A or B, where it could go where he's kind of part of some sort of plot. But that seems like it's not very likely. He knows where his bread is buttered, and he likes pickles. And he's getting the pickles. Right? For a coward like Eugene, this is the best he can ask for. So even if they take on Negan and he may not help Negan, in any way, he's going to miss it. He's going to miss being, part of the upper echelons of the camp. And that's going to be weird because, they take it down, and if Eugene was really doing a lot to, pouring the molten metal over some of the, their kind of line of dead that they're trying to keep as a deterrent for people to break in, it's going to be a bit weird. All the things he did to help make the camp more defensible and all of that stuff. He probably would want to keep his mouth shut, but eventually people will find stuff like that out. Honestly, I thought the whole thing with Eugene was a lot more interesting than the Sasha Rosita thing. They're both kind of flat characters. They never really had that much depth to them. It's kind of a cool homage to Abraham, that these 2 women who loved him are so freaked out by his death that they're going to basically sacrifice their lives for him in order to kill, to get revenge on Negan. But that's really all they are. They've never really had much character development. Let's see. We had Sasha just becoming kind of really suicidal after her brother died, and after the whole thing with when Negan killed Abraham, and of course Stephen Ewan, Glenn. That was her thing, and then we had Rosita, who's just been really snarky, and does all these kind of crazy things because she doesn't care anymore, because she lost her love. It wasn't well developed, I don't think. Now, the performances in the actual episode with Sasha and Rosita, not bad. I have to admit, I found myself reading things during the more, just the two of them. I just wasn't interested, to be honest, in how these two got along. I only saw it as, okay, they're going to try to kill Negan. How's this going to affect everything? How's this going to affect the main players? Because they've been such kind of side players and such flat characters. You can't take two flat characters and try to round them out at the last minute. There just wasn't enough character development. And somebody being snarky like Rosita, that's not character development. And then Sasha being all suicidal, again, not character development. Just like kind of flat reactions from flat people. And it's unfortunate because it's the writing. I think both of them could have been much more interesting characters. And we'll see. I think they're going to try to make Rosita more of a character, so they can kill her. And you'd actually care. Because right now, if Rosita and Sasha died, and Sasha may be dead already, you don't really care. They're really just not interesting. So I'm going to kind of hang my hat on that. Don't want to keep babbling about it. So what actually happens? They actually they go to the Savior's camp, and they're like a building away, overlooking. And Sasha keeps talking about how they could just take out Negan like a sniper, right? And they give it like one shot, but Negan always has people around him, so it's very hard to get a kill shot on him. He always has like people like right up next to him in tow. So they never got a shot on him, so they're like, fuck it, we're going to have to go in there and kill him. So we're going with the Rosita plan, which is a pretty stupid plan. There's a lot of armed people between them and Negan. So breaking in that's also just kind of a ridiculous plot point, right? They could have just said that they went and tried to do it, and, we could have seen their head on spikes. And it would have made us know that like Negan was still pretty evil or whatever. They could have used it as a plot device. They didn't really have to go into this whole like Sasha, Rosita thing. It was pretty boring and uninteresting. And like I've said and other people have said, it was kind of a good performance. And they might be great actresses, but honestly, their parts weren't written for that. Sasha as a sniper was kind of interesting, but now she's probably gone and she's probably dead, or maybe they captured her. Who knows? A bunch of big burly guys. She comes in. She'll get a couple shots off, but if there are enough guys around, she's either going to get killed or captured. So it's another A or B type thing. I jumped ahead a little bit. So what happened is Sasha, as they're going into this fence, and after Eugene walks away, because he doesn't want them taking away this kind of dream life he's leading. Like I said, the more interesting part of the episode, for me at least, Sasha gets in the gate, gets in the fence, and then takes kind of like a bike lock or a big bike lock, something akin to that, and locks up the fence she just came through so that Rosita can't get through. And, babbles something about they still need you. You got to go back. You're more important than I am, or some weirdness, which is a little bit stupid, because Sasha, as far as martial prowess, is like this amazing sniper. And she's a much greater loss. So it's kind of weird that, you're more useful. It would have been better the other way around. Okay, Sasha, you stay, I'm going. And she's going to go in. You could see maybe Rosita going in with like a bag full of explosives and just doing like a suicide bomber thing. And telling Sasha to leave because, she's a lot more useful as a sniper. Because Rosita really isn't that useful. I mean, she's kind of military. I don't know if she was like a guardsman or something, or army or whatever, but never comes out as like the like super badass of the apocalypse. She's just kind of in tow. I don't really remember her from any scenes, and yes, I have a little bit of dementia, but I don't remember her being in like any big fight scenes and like winning the day. She was just kind of around, like one of the soldiers. She was never like an Abraham, she was never like a real huge ass kicker. So that was a waste to me. They could have done it a lot of different ways, but they didn't. So Rosita, Sasha sacrifices herself, but you don't know what happens to her. She just goes into one of the doors, and that's about it. I think you hear like one or two gunshots. She probably gets taken out pretty quickly. If they are renewing her contract, then she's going to be in, she's going to get captured. If not, she's going to get killed. Whatever. It's not really that important. And then Rosita goes, she's telling her, you're more important. You have things to do. Sasha's telling Rosita that. And, she's like, go back to Alexandria. And she kind of breaks down, starts crying. And then that's about it. And at the end, the only extra thing is, as Rosita is kind of hightailing it out of there, she notices a dark figure wielding a crossbow watching her. And I think this is actually Daryl, because he was talking about, hey, we have to, what happened to Rosita and Sasha, because, they were part of the crew at Hilltop. So there was a scene where I think they were hinting that he was going to kind of go and see if he could rescue them, which would be pretty weird considering. So it might be somebody else. There really isn't. Like I said, there was a little bit of foreshadowing, and it looked like it was Daryl. It looked like his crossbow and all that. So we'll see. It could also be, what's his face? Burn Face. It's really not that important. I mean, I got to tell you that like I said, the big thing for me was finding out if Eugene was going to be kind of like, listen, no, I have to stay. You don't understand. At this signal, I'm supposed to blow up this and that. Like if we were kind of wondering if that was going to be the case, but then Eugene just starts crying and he's like, I didn't ask you to come. I don't want to leave. I want to stay here. So like finding out where Eugene was coming from, for me, was more important. The whole Sasha Rosita thing was just kind of, what do you call it? Kind of derp. So let's see what happened. We got some positive reviews. 75% rating, 6 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if I agree with that. Now, the focus on Sasha and Maggie throughout the episode, it was kind of half good, because the focus on Maggie being like one of the main characters for most of the seasons. I don't even remember. Was it like season 1 that they ended up at the farm, or 2? I don't even recall, but she's been there forever. And she's a much deeper character. She's a much more developed character. So this, the whole things when they have these, Maggie trying to set up people to fight, and they're trying to train the people from the hilltop how to use a knife and stuff like that. In fact, I think it was Sasha who was doing that, showing them how to use a military K-bar. Well, that was more interesting to me, because that's kind of a main plot line where you're going to get into, is the hilltop going to go in? So that the hilltop's going to take part, and it's going to be through Maggie somehow. So Maggie's to tie into like the main plot line of what they do with the hilltop people and get them, into the rebellion. Sasha, again, is kind of a side character. And a lot of their lines are very dumb, to the point where I kind of started droning it out. I mean, Rosita for the last few episodes has just been annoying, right? So, and Sasha has just been Sasha, which again is a flat character. I didn't get it. Maybe I am a heartless prick or something. I don't have a soul. I don't know. I'm not a ginger, so I think I do have a soul. As far as I can tell. So, let's see. Somebody else said something similar to what I was just saying. As it stands, Sasha, who is this? Oh, Eric Kane in Forbes. He actually wrote, as it stands, Sasha seems just as integral to the group as Rosita. It makes as little sense as Sasha agreeing to Rosita's plan in the first place when the sniper plan is so much better. And it just plain sucks that the better character is waltzing off to certain death, while one of the show's worst characters, at least lately, gets to get away. And he also said that he appreciated that Eugene turned out to be the true coward rather than a wolf in sheep's clothing. True coward, yes, but I think there's more to it. And I think what they went through with, like, showing Eugene get up there and be like, I'm your boss, give me whatever the fuck I want, I ain't signing shit. That was like a really important part of his kind of psychology. And it makes you like the character, even though he ends up kind of being a traitor. I mean, he is a traitor in a lot of ways. But you kind of understand why. And if you're in that stage where you're kind of understanding where someone's a traitor, they have kind of a well-rounded character. I think that whole episode with him really helped that. Maybe they tried to do that with Sasha and Rosita. They wanted to have some sort of getting them up to par. But even on that, it wasn't all about Sasha or Rosita. It was also about Maggie and Daryl. So it's like a four-way split. And you could do that with main characters who are already developed, but when they're not and you're trying to develop them, you can't have like a four-way split between four different actors. It's almost showing how unimportant they are. So let's see. Entertainment Weekly, Nick Romano gave the episode a B. And he kind of dug the whole bonding scene between Sasha and Rosita. I can't see two flat characters really bonding, right? It's just a plot device to me. It's not some sort of, deeper rounding of the characters. So it was frustrating to watch this episode, them two. I mean, I wish they would have really kind of focused in on Maggie and Daryl and what's going on with them. That would have been more of an episode. And you really want to know, like, what's going to go on with Hilltop and Gregory. They didn't really do any of that. Gregory kind of showed a little bit of nippiness because they took away his doctor, and he's like, well, we need that doctor. This is going to be something that's going to make it harder for me to keep control. And he did it in a very kind of like, don't you want this place in control? We've been such good people for you. Why you want to mess that up kind of thing. And you saw how Simon, the captain of the Saviors for, the Hilltop raiding crew, how he was just kind of more and more dickish throughout the whole thing. And he doesn't care, right? They want to rule by brute strength and by just fear and intimidation. So these kind of deals they have going on don't matter much. And I think one of the parts that might be more important is Gregory seeming to get that. Simon gave him like a note while he was complaining, and he said you could come to the compound anytime. Like anyone's going to walk into the Savior compound. You have to be out of his mind. So it's kind of like, here's this note, so you could show it to the guy at the front gate that you can come in anytime and register your complaints type of thing, knowing that no one's going to do that. So I think there's a bit of a realization where Gregory is actually going to get a bit more like, what, I'm still going to be a coward and I'm still not going to like support them, but I'm not going to hinder them. I'm going to do what I can to help them. I think that might be coming along. Now we have 2 episodes coming up. And I'm just going to give you the names of them because they don't have a synopsis, unfortunately. Let's see if I can get to this. Yes, I am using Wikipedia, baby. What we got here? The last 2 episodes. Something They Need. I'm getting I saw a couple of the coming attractions. I think we're actually going to finally have that all-women's group. And they're going to give them something they need in order to get them to fight with them. And then, of course, the finale, which is actually going to be show 99 and episode 16, The First Day of the Rest of Your Life. Okay. Who knows why it's called that? It could be like a book or something like that, where somebody sees a title. So it's we don't really know what's going to happen, although we could kind of figure out the last episode is going to be some sort of, at least beginning of the war. And it'll be more of a war. I mean, we have a bunch of groups. We have a very large force in the Saviors. They're not like 3 people, right? Or a dozen people. The people that were at the outpost kind of size, they're much bigger. So it's going to be quite interesting. With the first day of the rest of your life. That sounds like a book. Something They Need. Again, I think that's going to kind of go into getting this all-women group into the mix before the main war. And maybe we'll see something that, like giving them hope. Like, what do they need? They need hope that they can win. We'll see. I want to kind of get back to the other people reviewing this and going through like how, people have talked about it. I mean, it hasn't gotten horrible ratings. And then, of course, the 18 to 49, I think it got a 4.7, so it would be about 10.4, 10.3 million people. That's a pretty big deal. Let's see. The AV Club, Zach Handlin, gave the episode a B-. And he actually says that the episode managed something I thought was nearly impossible at this point. It made me care about Rosita and Sasha's friendship. See, that didn't work on me. And it goes into like Sasha and blah, blah, blah. Let's see, Metro's Adam Starkey praised the episode, calling it an effectively emotional build with some standout performances, especially the comfort moments between Sasha and Rosita. Again, I just did not get that. Now, Jacob Stolworthy of The Independent also praised the episode. I don't get it. I mean, I wouldn't have given it an F. I'm talking more, I would have given it a B-. There was still some sort of kind of cool development with the hilltop, and I like that part of the episode. And also you kind of find out that Daryl feels like he caused Glenn's death. You kind of got hinted at that when they showed a picture of Glenn when he was actually at the Savior's camp. And they kind of gave him a picture of Glenn, and he went nuts because he does feel like he's somewhat responsible. Let's see what else we got. Jeff Stone of IndieWire gave him a B grade. He felt that the episode was an excuse to give Rosita some semblance of character development. She got a little bit of that. Yeah, they tried. It may actually set it up so that if there is a little character development with her, it's not just like such far leap. So it's what you might call serviceable. He also questioned Sasha's actions, believing it to be manufactured and unmotivated. Since Sasha never seemed to have much of a martyr complex, and her major character beat in the series so far was finding a way back from the brink after she became suicidal back in season 5. I agree with that. Noam Cohen of the New York Observer was very negative of the episode, saying when it decides to slow down to give us character-centric vignettes rather than letting their personalities and emotions emerge from their involvement in the plot, it starts to lag and feel like a lot of filler. And feel a lot like filler. Okay, there's a mistyping there. I agree with that. It felt like filler. It didn't feel like any kind of development. It just wasn't done right. And 4.7 rating, 18 to 49 demographic, the key demographic with 10.32 million total viewers. Oh, okay. So I remembered that kind of correctly. So this was not a disappointment, but I think a good word for it is filler. It was a kind of a filler episode. Whatever's going on with Daryl and Maggie, and like I said, Gregory could be important to this. It's that was kind of interesting, right? It was at least an episode. Rosita, after all this happened, maybe might become a bit more interesting. Still a very flat character. She's just kind of bitchy. So that's not much of a rounding of a character to just make them bitchy. That just makes them kind of in line for middle management in retail. It doesn't, create a character. So there's a pretty big kind of plot hole with that. The only thing it could effectively do is make a little bit of character development less of a leap in the next episode. But I don't think that she's really even going to be in the next episode that much. Eugene and how he's really in love with being in charge. And, he gets this power from Negan. When he says, I am Negan, there's kind of a truth to it, because without Negan, he's just a coward that anybody could pick on. But with Negan making him someone important, that he will, bash people in the head with Lucille if they fuck with Eugene, that's very empowering to a person like Eugene. And that gives him a very kind of like a humanistic character, a flawed person, right? So now if he does something heroic, it kind of counts, because he's giving up this kind of dream life where he has like the head alpha male ready to come down on anybody who messes with him. So for the first time in his life, he feels almost safe. He feels powerful. In a way, he is Negan, because he needs Negan to be him. And that's the part. And it was all of 20 seconds in the episode. That's really the best part of the episode, in my opinion. So, that's it for me. I think I might split my Walking Dead shows off into an entertainment show. I know once this season ends, we're going to have Game of Thrones and a lot of other shows that kind of have the same kind of appeal. They're just like the top shows, right? Because they're really well made. So you have like Walking Dead, Game of Thrones. There's a couple other shows that I think would fit that bill. Breaking Bad used to be. Unfortunately, it's over. So it's, there's going to be, it's funny that AMC brings out some of these shows and also brings out Into the Badlands, which is horrible. I'm not going to start talking about that. I know its season is starting, but I don't think anybody gives a shit about Into the Badlands. It's kind of fun to watch because the sword fighting is awesome. The martial arts, it's like watching a Jackie Chan movie, but, a whole series that's tied to itself. I forget the main character in it, what his actor's name is, but he's obviously a pretty accomplished, at least, martial arts actor. And I find that entertaining, but nothing else about the show. It's kind of a stupid show. Preacher, I haven't tried yet. Some people have told me good things about that. One of the great things about having kind of this interactive kind of market, with being on YouTube and Spreaker and, my Facebook and all that stuff is If you guys know a show or want a show for me on my entertainment show to kind of go into, kind of like a little Talking Dead, but for us, and for other shows, obviously, not just The Walking Dead, please feel free to make suggestions. We have more of like a year-around type of thing going on, where it's not necessarily everything's on the same season like it used to be. There's shows that happen all the time. I remember one summer a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you got to come out on Friday night." And I didn't want to tell him why I didn't, but I told him, I'll be out tomorrow night. This is when I was younger. This is, wow, 8 or 9 years ago. And I finally told him, I was like, "Dude, you're not going to get me off the couch during Sci-Fi Friday," right? Because I would watch Stargate, and I think there was like 2 or 3 Stargates, and like my whole Sci-Fi Friday thing. Oh, I loved it. That was my favorite time of the year. And that was like during a time when they usually wouldn't have new seasons. They're having like the new seasons for geeks like me. And of course, there's always movies and stuff like that to go into. I love to, I love my movies. I love my books. I love my shows. And I got to tell you, once you know about this stuff, that's how you pick people up. And this goes for women too. You start talking to a guy about the latest like Marvel movie, you're in. And guys, like the latest like Game of Thrones or whatever, you got something to talk about. It's a pretty it's a pretty heavy mating ritual in the United States to talk about TV shows and movies. So keep yourself up on that, man. You don't necessarily have to get cable, but get HBO, like HBO Go or something, because you gotta stay up to par. Okay, so that's my thing, and like I said, I look forward to any interactions as far as, especially if you want to suggest a show that we could talk about, because The Walking Dead's ending in 2 weeks, and we'll see what the next one is. Awesome. Talk to you guys later.